Hello and welcome to today's webinar, Why Businesses Are Considering a Move to Windows 10, presented by Knowledge Wave Learning Site. So let's talk a little bit about what some of the topics are that we're going to cover today. So is Microsoft Windows 10 free? Now you've probably heard some rumors and you've heard this free thing and you're kind of excited. You're thinking, wow, free software, that sounds really good. So we'll answer that or try to address that the best we can today because we don't have a final conclusion quite yet because this software is not available yet. It's only in a test version, but we do have some additional information that we'll pass along for you today. Also, upgrade versus new equipment. So if you're thinking about upgrading your company to, let's say, Windows 10, what is it going to involve? Are you going to be able to just upgrade or are you going to have to purchase new equipment? And then, of course, one of the important parts is the impact on the end user. So that means, do we have to train everyone? And if you've been, if you've seen Windows 8.1 or Windows 8, you know that there seems to be a learning curve there and a lot of users just really don't understand how to use that particular software. So we'll talk a little bit about what type of impact you can expect on the end user if you were to upgrade to Windows 10. And of course, the fun part is the demo where we're going to show you some of these new cool features that are available. Now, before I get to is Microsoft Windows free, let me just tell you a little something about what's going on. So by the end of 2015, Microsoft is getting ready to launch its latest operating system called Windows 10. Now, most of us are familiar and very happy with Windows 7. Well, here's the bad news. The bad news is, as of January of 2015, Microsoft has ended its mainstream support for Windows 7, and by 2020, it will end its extended support. Now, you're thinking, well, geez, 8 or 8.1 is probably not an option due to the fact that it's difficult for users to use, right? Or to learn the new options that are available there. So I think what you're going to see in Windows 10 is that you're going to see the very best of 7, which there's a lot of great features in 7. You're also going to see the best of 8.1, which there are also great features in 8.1, plus some cool new features that every user will find helpful and useful. Now, Windows 10 has been tested for over a year by more than 1.5 million users. So they've really tested this. And these 1.5 million users are giving continuous feedback. And I'll just give you an idea how this is working. I'm one of those people that actually give feedback to Microsoft. I just last week reinstalled Windows 10 because the older version, they expired that one. So I notice a big difference from the earlier version to this version that I'm going to be showing you today. I think this is closer to the final than what we saw maybe like 6 months ago. So again, let's get to that question, is Microsoft Windows 10 free? Well, I'm going to answer that as yes and no. I know that's an easy way to get out of it. It's all going to depend on the license agreement that you currently have. So let's say you're a single user or a non-enterprise. So like larger companies buy enterprise licenses. You will be able to upgrade Microsoft to Microsoft 10 for free for 1 year. Your computer that you currently have has to be running 7, 8, or 8.1. So what happens to the larger companies? Well, larger companies usually buy enterprise licenses, and Microsoft will continue to support you like they currently are doing. And I don't know because we don't have really any contract information on what we can expect. But what it sounds like is that this is going to be a subscription-based fee, and you're absolutely right, it is. So in other words, Microsoft is going to charge every year for this software. But the reason why they're going to do this is because they're going to give you the latest, they're going to give you the most secure software that's out there. Think about, there's still companies that are using Windows XP. That's not supported, it's not secure. So the thing is, if we had this subscription base, everybody would be using the latest version of Microsoft. Also, Microsoft does not want to have to support operating systems that are ancient. Other companies aren't doing this, and Microsoft has decided that they're no longer going to do this. So again, we're going to get the latest, greatest, and the safest technology that's out there. You're probably wondering, well, how much is it going to cost after the first year? Because when I buy a computer now, it comes with an operating system, and I never pay for the operating system again. We're not quite sure because, again, they have not released any information, but we do expect to hear that sometime in the fourth quarter when they release that, as well as the date of delivery. So the other option is here, what are we going to do? Upgrade versus new equipment. So the thing is, you've got all this equipment now. You're thinking about upgrading, going from 7 to 10. How much is it going to cost? Well, the good news is that if you have 7 on your current computers, you can upgrade. You do not have to reinstall. You can just upgrade to Windows 10. So that means you don't have to do a complete install, which is going to save you a lot of time. And then you got to find your drivers, and it's just really time consuming. You also, once you do install Windows 10, have the ability to go back and resort your computer back to the earlier operating system as well. So it's not like you're totally wiping off the Windows 7 or whatever version you have on there. You can always get back to that. So if you load this on, but then you find that there's programs that are not working with the new Windows 10 and you need to resort back to an earlier version, you can do that as well. So I think you're going to find that it's going to be real easy to install this. They made it real easy. Now, of course, impact on the end user, and this is really my department. This is what I do for a living. I actually go visit end users and I train them how to use Microsoft products, Windows and Microsoft Office. So I know exactly what users are looking for, and I think what you're going to find is this system really is going to help users find things very quickly. But I think they're going to still need a little bit of training, but not extensive training. They're just going to need to know where these new options are. How can I use this? How can I find things very quickly? So I think the learning curve is not going to be as bad as going from, let's say, Windows 7 to Windows 8. That was quite a learning curve right there. All right, so let's get to the demo, the fun stuff here. All right, so here's what Windows 10 desktop looks like. Now, it doesn't look much different than 7, right? So your users aren't going to be in shock when they're looking at this desktop. And guess what else they brought back? They brought back the start button, and they improved the start button. So you're thinking, how can they improve the start button from Windows 7? It was great. You clicked on it, you could find some recently opened programs. You could even pin things in there so that you can always get access to them. Well, let me show you what they've done with the start button. So the start button looks a little different, but I don't think, again, it's not too bad. If we look at this, you'll see that we have some locations that we can navigate to. We also have our most used, or like our recent. So as you're opening up programs on your computer, or they call them apps now, but programs or apps, whatever you'd like to call them, you're going to be able to find them here and get quick access to them again, just like you could in Windows 7. We also have our recently added programs, so anything that you've installed recently, and we have our all apps, or kind of similar to our all programs. So we just go ahead and click on all apps. And again, you're going to get that list very similar to what we had before. It's alphabetically. Really, you don't even need to do this to find anything. Your computer is pretty smart. And it's got, again, a new searching tool that I think you're going to find pretty impressive as we're looking at this. Over on the right side, you'll see this start screen. And if you did work with Windows 8 or 8.1, one of the things that you found is when you opened or launched Windows 8 or 8.1, what happened is it looked like this. It was this tiled mess, right? Or you thought it was a tiled mess because you really didn't understand what you were supposed to do here. Here's where Microsoft kind of made a mistake when they did this. And I don't think it's a bad operating. I love Windows 8.1. I have it on my computers, all my computers, and I know how to use it, and it works really well, especially if you have a touch screen. What Microsoft was doing is they're thinking, well, you know what? We've got smartphones, we've got tablets, they're all touch, and everybody's getting really used to that kind of touch interface. So that's what we need to do. We need to go forward with that. But here's the problem. There was only 10% of the laptops that were being created were touchscreen. So you had this software that was really geared for touch-enabled devices, but we have no touch-enabled devices to display it on. So that was where the problem was. Now, Windows 10 is going to have the same features, like it's going to have the touch display and all that stuff, but we figure that it'll be closer to 60% of the laptops will now have touchscreen capability. So that's going to make this a lot better, a lot easier to use. So it's kind of like they did it before their time, is what it amounted to. So you'll see that this is a full screen, and I would use this if I had a touch screen. It would be great. I could just click on it very quickly. But for the end users that are going to be using a mouse and a keyboard, you're going to stick with the standard button like this. So this is where we can pin programs, folders, whatever it is that we need to access quickly on our computer. And I'm going to show you how to do that in just a couple minutes here. So this is, and you can move the tiles around. It's really kind of neat how you can do that. So let's say, for instance, what I want to do is I want to be able to find Excel. So there's a couple of ways to actually do this. Let's say I click on my Start button, I can just start typing the word Excel in. And you can do this in Windows 7 as well. You can just start typing in and you're going to find the program. Look at it, it finds me. It finds me a program right here. You also will see that I have some documents that have the word Excel in there. There's even some web content that I could go out to as well. And I could kind of limit my searching to either my stuff or to the web, depending on really what it is that I'm looking to do here. One of the things that you can do, and I always tell users as they're, getting the new software or trying to kind of figure out where things are, you always have the right-click menu. The right-click menu is huge in all of the operating systems. It doesn't matter which version you're using, and especially the people that go out and buy a personal computer and they're getting the 8.1. They're complaining to me as I'm training them at work. They're saying, "Yeah, I bought this computer. It's got 8.1, and I'm just having a hard time with it." And I show them a couple little tips and tricks, and you know what? They love it. They know where to navigate now. They know how to find things. And it's the same thing here. You're going to be able to find things very, very quickly. But if I do right-click, you'll see that I get a menu. You're always going to get a menu of options if you right-click in the Microsoft environment. So you can see things such as Pin to Start. That would be this location right over here. Pin to Taskbar. Really a nice location down here for you to pin, and there's reasons why you may want to do that. All right, so you can certainly do that. I can go ahead and I can open it. And as I open the program up as well, you'll see down here on the taskbar, the little icon. But if I right-click here, not only could I pin this if I decide later I'd like to do that, or remove it if it's already there, but I can also find some of the recent workbooks that I've had open, and I can even pin these as well. So this, again, is very similar. It's just kind of the best of 7 that you're seeing right here. So let's say I want to add it to my start screen here. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go and find it again. Let me just go ahead and type it in. And I'm going to go ahead and right-click on it, and I'm going to add or pin to my start. So it doesn't look like I see it here. I did say I wanted to pin it here, but I have to scroll all the way down to the bottom, and you'll see it right here. So just left-click, you just drag it up, and you can decide where you would like to place this on your start screen. If you decide that you would like to remove it at any point in time, you can simply just right-click, and notice you can unpin from start, pin it to the taskbar, which we haven't done. You can also resize it, which is kind of neat. So take a look at, for instance, the weather app that I'm looking at right here. Maybe I'd like to see a little bit more information about that, especially if you've got news or anything like that, you can do that. If I right-click on the weather app, I could unpin it. I could pin it to the taskbar, or I could resize it. So right now it looks like it's a medium size, but I can go all the way to large if I need to. And then you'll see a much larger view of the weather. And it may take just a second for it to cycle and give me the actual weather forecast as it's looking at it. One thing that you're going to find is we are looking at a beta version of this, so everything is not all set. And I even find some of the searching is a little spotty at this point until we do get that final version. All right, so we'll go on to, also I just want to show you really quickly while we're under the start button here is the power option, because obviously people are going to have to know how to restart or shut down their computer, and they might have been used to it in 7 where it was down here. All they got to do is find it right here. There's several ways to get to shutting your computer off or restarting it. This is one option right here. And also I was telling you, remember that you can left click or you can right click. If you right click anywhere, you'll get a menu of options. So if I right click the start button, notice I do get options, and I can actually go to different locations very quickly here. I can even shut down and sign out if I need to as well. So a little something on the start button. I think they've done a really nice job with that. I do like the fact. Now here's one of the things that's going to happen. Let's say you buy a device and it's one, we'll just say Microsoft Surface, right? So Microsoft Surface is kind of like that computer tablet. So it's a tablet that's like really a computer, which is great. And what you do is you have like a detachable, or you can attach a keyboard, and you might even plug a mouse into the USB port as well. So what Microsoft Windows 10 is going to do is it's going to know if there's a keyboard attached, if there's a mouse attached, and it's going to adjust the display accordingly to whatever type of device or whatever's plugged in. So this is going to work out great, because as we move on, more and more devices are going to be detachable. They're going to be 2-in-1s. They're going to be touch screens. That's all happening now, and it's going to just happen more. And what we need is an operating system that can adjust to those different environments. If I was to, let's say, separate my computer, now I don't have a touch or like a Surface, but if I did, what I might find is that it would open up like this. It would give me the full screen because now I'm in touch mode, and touch mode would give me more room to be able to touch and navigate the computer. So that's kind of neat that they now are going to adjust according to the Windows Phone, the Windows tablets, and the Windows laptops that we're looking at. Some of you using, of course, Windows 7 probably have snapped windows before, which means you can tile windows real quickly on your screen. And we have some enhancements now that are really kind of neat that will help you out with this as well. So there are some new snapping features that I want to just kind of go over with you real quickly and give you an idea of what to expect. I'm going to open up several different files, and a few different things that we can do, which is really exciting here, is we can have multiple desktops. We can navigate through our windows quickly. So we're going to show you all of those exciting things here in just a couple minutes. So I'm going to go ahead and I'll open up, I've got a couple of Word documents. So I'm going to right click on the W down here, Word, and I'll open up this one right here. So I've got this Word document, Excel. I'm going to open up another Excel workbook here. I'll open up this one here. So I'll have a couple of Word documents, and I'm going to go out to my Start button and open up the Weather app. All right, so I got a lot of stuff going on. So one of the things we can do is we can snap windows. So if you don't have a dual monitor, and even if you do have a dual monitor, you may want to position two windows on the same screen. And, you know, for those of you that have never used Snap before, you have been adjusting windows manually. And so you're grabbing a window, you're making it smaller, you're resizing it, and it's just painful because it takes you forever to try to get this one, and then you try to get one lined up here, and by the time you do that, you click on this window and this one disappears. And then you got to go dig it up and try to figure out where it is. Snapping is great because, again, we can see two different windows, or they call them apps if you'd like, at the same time. So what I want to do is I want to show you how that kind of works. Let's say I have this Excel file and I would like it to take up half my screen. So I left click and drag in the title. You notice how I'm dragging the title, and as I move over here, you'll see it. There we go. So it snaps. But look what it does now. And again, if you have used Windows 7 and you have used the snap feature, you don't see this. Okay, this is new. What you see is you have to go out and find the other window wherever it disappeared to and bring it forward, and then you have to drag it over to snap it to the other side of the screen. Well, here they're showing us all the different windows that we have open currently right now. And if you want to snap one of these windows, just click on it and it will just fill out whatever area is left. So let's try something else out. Let's make it a little smaller. I'm just going to drag it down here a little bit. Let's say this window that I want to snap, I want to make it a little bit smaller. So I want it a little smaller here. All right, so then I'll go here. And if in some cases, depending if you have a dual monitor, and you have to do this in Windows 7 as well, is if I was to drag this over to the right, well, I have a monitor on the right as well. So what's going to happen is it's going to drag over on my other monitor. So click in the window that you want, or in this case, they call it an app, right? Click on this, and the Windows key that's on your keyboard in the lower left, it looks just like this little start button that you see down here. That's called the Windows key, and we have one on our keyboard. And if you hold down the Windows key, and in this case, use the right arrow, so you got right, left, up, and down arrows. So Windows right will snap that. But look how much larger it is. It fills in the remaining part of the screen. So let me give you an example of how I would use this, or how I do use this. You use Outlook, okay? So you use Outlook, and a lot of you probably use Lync for your kind of inter-office communication, or maybe even outside of your organization. Well, Lync's like a small little thin pane, right? Kind of similar maybe in size to this, and it would be nice to be able to see the link and see if the people that you contact frequently, if they're in, because you want to, get in touch with someone, you can see if they're busy or away or wherever they are, or free. And what would be nice is if I could have that link, just a little skinny pane of link over there, and then the majority of the screen would be my Outlook. But what happens is when I click in Outlook, I don't want my link to disappear, and when I click in my link, I don't want my Outlook to disappear. So you're going to find that it doesn't matter where I click. I'm clicking in both of these. It doesn't matter. You're going to find that I can navigate between both of these and keep both of these windows forward, which is really nice. If you have experienced Windows 8, let's say you did, Windows 8.1 was kind of fixing some of the problems that people ran into earlier and making it a little bit more usable for most people. But one of the things that we found to be a problem was the apps that were installed on Windows 8. Think about apps. Where would you use apps? You would use apps on your cell phone. And you know when you close out an app on your cell phone, it's not like you just hit a little X and it disappears. It's kind of like you have to swipe it off the screen and all that, which is great. You can do that if you have a touch-enabled device, which most of us don't, right? So that was the problem. Maybe 10% of the devices being created were touch back in the days of the 8 version coming out. And then, so what we had to do back in 8 is you had to grab the window or app and drag it off the screen. Well, nobody knew that they had to do that, but you had to drag and grab it off. So now what they've done is they've made it really easy. They've made it with the same kind of like structure of a window that you typically are used to. What are you used to? Well, you're used to a title bar that you always see. You're used to minimize, restore, or maximize, or close out. That's there now. So whether it's a program such as Excel or Access or whatever you might be using, or whether it's an app like this weather app, or even there's a mail app as well that you can use, you're still going to be able to use it just like you do with a regular old window that you're used to. So it's going to be no different whether you have Excel open or the weather app. You can still control it the same way. Notice down here on the taskbar that I have the app right here. I can see it right here. I can hover right over it. And if I hover over my Excel, sure enough, there's my Excel right there. I can get to them just like they were a regular old window that everybody's used to. Okay, so there's really like no difference, or at least there's no difference that the end user is going to feel here. Now, the other thing that's kind of cool, and I'm going to make this one a little bit larger. I'll drag these down just a little bit here. That we can, let's say you have a couple projects you're working on, and you know what happens? We have so many things open, right? And we're moving through these windows all the time to try to figure out where things are. So I'm going to show you a couple little tricks for moving between the windows. But also what I want to show you is, why don't we just create a couple desktops? Why don't we have wouldn't it be kind of neat to have here's one computer that has these 2 workbooks I'm working on for project whatever. And then I have this screen over here is for something else. And I don't want to see the other ones. I don't want to have to cycle through any of them. I only want to cycle through these 2 workbooks. But then I have some other stuff open that I want to be able to access a little bit later. But I don't have to close it out and then reopen it. It's just a waste of time. So I want to show you some really cool things I think you can do if you're multitaskers. First of all, let's just talk about kind of whipping through these windows a little bit and showing you what's available. Now, I don't know if you use the Alt-Tab key, but you should write that down if you don't use it. So Alt and the Tab key, okay? You can use it in any version of Microsoft. It is the slickest way for you to navigate between either the last 2 windows that you've been kind of tiling back and forth with, or any windows that you currently have open on your computer. So let me give you an idea. I'm going to do an Alt-Tab. So look at, you see what it just brought forward, right? It brought forward that Excel workbook. Alt-Tab. Oh, brought back the weather. And I can just keep going back and forth with Alt-Tab and bringing just those 2 windows. But maybe I need to navigate out further and find a file that's, maybe several files back from this one right here. So Alt-Tab, now I'm keeping my finger on the Alt key, but I hit Tab once. Look at this right here. This is a larger thumbnail preview showing you all of the files that I have open. And if I click through these, I can decide, oh, I want to bring this Word document open. I'll let go of the Alt key, and sure enough, there is my Word Windows 10 document that I have. Again, Alt-Tab, and I can work through any of these. Here's the blank Excel workbook. And I can go back and forth between these 2, or I can keep cycling until I find exactly what I would like to open up. So definitely you can use the Alt-Tab. Now, in earlier versions, or depending on what type of version you have, you may not get some of this, but or the thumbnails might be a little bit smaller, but I think they did a really nice job with this. I really like this look. But again, if you have 8, 10 things open, it's still confusing to kind of go back and forth between those. So what we got to do is we got to figure out how we can be a little bit better organized and still have a couple of projects going at the same time, but really concentrate on one, and then we can go see the other one afterwards. All right, so here's a really cool little feature that I love. I can't wait, like I say, for Windows 10 to become available. I'm going to be one of the first ones to actually install the final version here. If you look down here, there is a little button, and this little button right here is called Task View. So you remember how I just said the Alt-Tab is kind of cool and you can cycle through the windows? Well, not everybody likes shortcuts. People like the mouse. They're used to it. We trained them to use the mouse. Now we're telling them not to use the mouse. Well, a lot of people use the mouse. So if you click on this button, it will show you all of the windows that you have open. Now, matter of fact, I have a dual monitor, so it is actually showing me a couple of windows over on the other monitor as well. And I could click on any one of these and bring that window forward. Also, with these larger thumbnails, which is really great, look at the X right here in the right side of all of these thumbnails. You don't even have to bring the window forward, look at it, go all the way up with the mouse, hit the X to close the window out. You can actually just hover over it and go, you know what, I don't need this file anymore. I'll just file it away. Now, of course, if you've done anything, it's going to ask you and prompt you to save, but in most cases, you can actually clean up a lot of your desktop, these files that you have open, if that's one way you need to do this. But what we're thinking about doing is creating a new desktop. So I have two things that I'm going to be working on, and I want to switch back and forth between them. Take a look down here in the lower right, and you'll see a new desktop. You click it, and notice we have desktop 1 and desktop 2. And you can see the X that you can eventually get rid of whatever desktop. So usually what I end up doing is I have to click, and I don't know if there'll be an easier way or how this is all going to work, but this is the way that I found that it works currently right now. Then what I do is I click back on the task view, and I see the two desktops. So I'm going to notice as I hover over desktop 1, you see these are all the windows that are currently in my desktop 1. Well, I've got two Excel files that I really want to work on separately. So I'm going to drag this one in here. And I'm going to drag this one in here, and I'm going to get rid of the blank workbook. So basically what we're going to have is in desktop 1, I'm going to have a Word document in the weather. Desktop number 2, and they brought me there, is the two Excel files. Let me just go ahead and tile both of those so we can see them at the same time. So see how it resized that when I click once? There it is. Now take a look down here on the taskbar, because this is kind of exciting. I didn't even realize this until just recently here. But as we're looking at this, notice that I have the two Excel files. But where's my Word document? I'm hovering over W. I don't see a Word document. What about my weather? I don't see the weather icon there as well. That's because that's in desktop number 1. We're in desktop number 2. So we're only working with this. We're only tiling between these two windows or whatever windows you're working with. This is great. Now, let's say we got to go back to desktop number 1. And we got to, work on that particular location. So I'm going to click back here on my task view, and I'm going to click on desktop 1. Now I'm in my Word document. Notice the Word document right here. And notice if I hover over my weather, there's the weather. Sure enough, there it is. But no Excel. I don't see Excel here at all. So those two Excel workbooks do not exist here. They're in desktop number 2. So let's take a look at this. What happens if you want to remove desktop number 2 and get back down to a single desktop? Now you got 8 desktops going, and it's just getting crazy, right? You can hit the X. Now what's going to happen when we hit the X? Well, what it's going to do is it's just going to take whatever open windows that you had in desktop number 2, and it's going to apply them to desktop number 1. It's not going to close anything out. It's just going to shift them back to desktop number 1. And then again, from there, you can decide on how you would like to close them out. So really a nice, great option for those multitaskers out there. I mean, I attempted. I'm a guy, so I do the best I can by attempting multitasking, where my wife can multitask quite nicely. All right, so there is another little option I got to show you here as well. Looking at this taskbar, again, it's loaded with a lot of great things. We haven't even really got to this search. We'll talk a little bit more about that in just a minute. But let's take a look over here on the right side, down at the lower bottom. This is notification area. And one of the things we're finding is that these new laptops that are going to be coming out or have been coming out, are laptops. I mean, most people aren't getting desktops anymore. Most companies are rolling out now laptops. Now, why would they do that? Well, you know what? A lot of people can commute. They're either going to go to work or they're going to be at home. So there's a couple different ways that you can have that laptop. And of course, security is a concern, and Microsoft has addressed that because they know there's going to be more of that going on with cloud-based services and stuff like that. So take a look at this last button just before the date and time. Now it says no new notifications, and this is the notification area, but Think about if you are traveling with your laptop and you're on an airplane. Well, what do? You got to put it in airplane mode. Or maybe you have a Bluetooth device, but I don't even know where to hook this thing up. Where the heck's the Bluetooth settings? I don't know where they are. And I mean, yes, you can search for them, but most people are just going to go, find me a button and I'll click it, and that's the way I'm going to go. If you click this button right here, it shows you your notifications, of course, but it also shows you some of the more popular setting or options that you might need to get quick access to. Think about your phone. You're on the airplane and you got your phone. Well, most of us know how, hopefully you all know how to, right? Set it into airplane mode. You either hit the power button for a little bit and it gives you a prompt screen, or you go to your settings and you hit a button and you're in airplane mode, which is great. Notice this tablet mode. So again, as devices will be able to be separated, as they're creating these new computers, they're going to be more of a separation tablet / computer. You're going to find now my 2-in-1 means that I can just basically, I can't separate the keyboard, but I can flip the entire monitor all the way around so I can handle it just like a tablet. But when it does that, it needs to go into tablet mode because the keyboard's disabled. And Windows 10 is going to, again, adjust the screen for me because it knows I'm in tablet mode now instead of the PC mode that I was in before. So notice there's an expand button here, which has got some great options, and I certainly would recommend doing that. There's the airplane mode I was telling you about. VPN, if you do anything with that, with a virtual private network, they made this easier to get to. Also, there's your Wi-Fi and any of your settings and stuff that you can get to. Not that you have to click here. If you're looking for Bluetooth or anything like that, you can just start typing and it'll find it for you, of course. But again, it's nice to have those buttons and those choices. So let's talk a little bit about this new search tool that we have. So think about, now most people have a smartphone. You either have an iPhone or you have some sort of Android phone, and they all have an incredible search engine, right? I mean, you just start speaking and for the most part it understands. I know it doesn't always, but for the most part it understands. It gets a website out there for you, or it calls someone, and so on. Well, Microsoft knows that obviously that's the way of the future, of course, and people want to be able to speak and get results very quickly. What they've done is they've been working on this search, and like I said, 8 months ago when I downloaded this, it was just a little search button and you basically type some stuff in there. And from that to today, they now have a microphone and you can certainly talk to it. So this is called Cortana, and what it is it's a personal assistant. So think about it. She can search for web things, find things on your PC, and you'll be able to say, such as, put something on my calendar or move an appointment from my calendar. Now that technology right now has, at least in this beta version, is not working, but that's what they're telling us that we're going to be able to do. She can tell jokes. I mean, you just name whatever it is that you want and it will find things for you. So let me just show you a couple things and we'll see how it works through the mic that I have here. So I'm not going through my computer. I'm actually using a mic here. So we'll see how this works. I'll start by clicking here. And I'm going to start typing in. See, it knows my name because I typed it in there. So let me type in Knowledge Wave. All right, so I'm going to find Knowledge Wave. I'm typing in Knowledge Wave. Now this is, so some people may think of, you'd go to Internet Explorer, Google, Chrome, or whatever, and you start typing in and of course you find it. So this is, you don't even have to go there. You just type in, and depending on where it is that you need to go, then Cortana will open up whatever you need. Do you need Internet Explorer? Do you need this program? Or what are you looking for? So you can see here that it looks like I have a Word document that has Knowledge Wave in it. I have a few documentations here. It looks like Excel workbooks that also have the word Knowledge Wave. And then I'm starting to see some web results right here. So what's this Knowledge Wave in South Burlington? All right, there we go right there. So you can see that there's Knowledge Wave and I can get to it very quickly. All right, so let's try something else. So let me go, I'm going to go ahead and speak. Now I'm going to tell you what I'm going to say first because I don't really need to confuse her and keep talking at the same time. So I'm going to ask Cortana, what's the temperature in Miami? Okay, so let me go ahead and do this. Temperature in Miami. So it's 87 and sunny. So you can see, you can ask it all kinds of questions, which is really nice as well. So we can find things that are on our computer. We can find things on the web. find files, whatever it is that you're looking for. And it's only going to get better because as you start to use it, it kind of figures out what it is that you're looking for. The results will be a little bit quicker, kind of like what your phone does as well. So I think it's definitely a big improvement, and it's something that we need. We're used to it in all other type of electronics we use. Why not have it in our PC lives as well? I do want to talk just a little bit, just a few minutes about the File Explorer and maybe where some of the changes are in File Explorer. Okay, that's how we navigate and find files, folders, and so on. And earlier I showed you that you can, like if I right click on the Excel icon, I can pin these workbooks so that I can find them very quickly again. Well, the same is true as we're looking out and navigating out to network locations. Now, I just went through with a company and I trained them on Windows 7. They upgraded to Windows 7. And we did about a 45 to an hour long session. And it was amazing how much people learned, even though they're using it every day. The thing is, I found when I sit down with people, they always want to show me a file, but they do not have any idea where this file is. It takes them like 10 minutes. They open up, they're double clicking. I don't know if it's in my email, it's in my H drive. I don't know where it is, right? So what I try to do is I try to show them, well, is there a word or words that we can use? And we can certainly use the search capabilities. I mean, I'm telling you, the searching capabilities are much better than they were in earlier versions. So let's go ahead and we'll click on the yellow folder and I'll just show you what you can expect. This is the new File Explorer. So what is File Explorer? Well, that's really where we can explore or go out and find our files. Now over here on the left side, of course, you're going to find your different locations. You're going to find a OneDrive. So this is the cloud-based services from Microsoft. And depending on, you can purchase or you can get some free storage where you can store things in the cloud and be able to access them. Now companies are kind of toying between what could I use this? How should I use this? How our policies all fall into place with this? So that's something that you and your company are going to have to decide on as we get more into this cloud-based technology, what should be placed there and what shouldn't be placed there. And you'll notice that typically, just like in Windows 7, you have the triangles now, and when you click on them, you can expand or collapse depending on, again, what you're looking for folders under that level. So if you have H drives or S drives or wherever your network location is, you're going to be able to do this. But again, going back to what I was just telling you a few minutes ago, the end user has problems finding the files that they've had open recently. Take a look at what we've got here. Yes, we've got our frequent folders, but we also have our recent files. These are the recent files that I've had open, and I can get to them very quickly again. So that's really exciting. And if you decided that, this is not one that you want, you can just right click on it and you can hide it from recent. And you can put in whatever it is that you want. So really kind of neat that you're going to be able to find things that you've had recently open. I think this is going to save the end user a lot of time. Also, if you look over here on the left, you'll see these quick access. So let's say we navigate to a specific folder location. So let's say I navigate right to here. And this is a location that I really would like to get to quite frequently. And you saw that I had to double click and do all kinds of stuff here. Notice this pin to quick access. So take a look right here. I haven't clicked yet, but just see right here. And you'll see it right up here at the top. Here it is, Excel 2013 Level 3 class file. So let me get out of here. I'll go back to Documents. Here I am. Actually, I'll just close it right out entirely here. So I click on my folder. I need to get to that Excel Level 3. I click and there I am. So you can place anything in there in your quick access. It would be considered like favorites. So if you did slide some stuff in your favorites, they will be in here when you upgrade. So it's not like you've lost everything. I would always recommend that you do some screenshots just so that you know what you had. And then that way, as you're kind of working through this again, oh, you know what, that didn't come over. So I'll go out and I'll find that shortcut and I'll place it in there. So that's not a bad idea to do as you're looking at that. Again, one of the other big things with Windows Explorer, which I think is pretty nice here, is the fact that you get this ribbon. And most of us are used to ribbons now because our Office programs are either 2007, 2010, or 2013. You're probably using one of those. And if you are, you've been exposed to a ribbon. And a ribbon is really great. The icons are bigger. As you hover over them, it tells you what the button is used for, right? So an enhanced screen tip, which I think is fantastic. And you can see we have some great options. Create a new folder. Look at under View what you have. Under View, you have Live Preview as you just kind of hover over these to see what you're going to get. And some checkboxes and uncheckboxes as well. So you got the preview pane over here where you can preview things as well. So really a nice setup, I think, for you. Search box is great. So let's see. I think I have something with budget. Oh, yeah, there we go. Now, I don't have thousands of files, so I mean, those results were really quick. But the thing is, I think you're going to find that the results are going to be really quick because of the indexing and the file structure that they build behind this in the search engine. So I think you're going to find really some great options for you as you're looking for this. So the end user, I believe, will find this not to be difficult at all. I just think you have to train them a little bit because you got to train them to let them know what's available. You know, it's just like when you buy a brand new car. So you have a car, it's 10 years old, it's time to get a new car. And you get in the new car. It's got everything the old car had, plus it's got some new stuff, of course, but you don't even know where everything is because they've changed this over here, or this is over here, or how do I use this now? And it takes you a little bit of time to get used to that. And that's the same thing. So with training, you can certainly provide your end users, I think, with a very brief type of training that would help them move from a 7 environment definitely to a Windows 10 environment. So I hope that's given you kind of an idea of some of the exciting things with Windows 10. But don't forget, you can always check out our website. We're at www.knowledgewave.com, and we're going to have information as this keeps coming up. So we'll have little videos, or we'll have some information that we'll gladly send you, just letting you know what's going on and what some of the new features, or when the dates are coming up, or how much this is going to cost as an end user or as a business owner, as far as that goes. Thank you for attending today's webinar. Don't forget to check out our website at www.knowledgewave.com for more information on the latest Microsoft Windows and Microsoft Office programs.